Hi, everybody. This is November 6th, 2024, and I was up watching the election results last night until there was confirmation that President Trump had won in a landslide victory. And I noticed a lot of moaning and wailing and real psychological distraught responses from different people. And I just have a couple of observations to make that might or might not be of some comfort to you. So I grew up, or I spent my adolescent years in the same Montreal neighbourhood, Westmount, as Kamala Harris. It's almost hard to even remember her name. And so I was interested when she was picked by Joe Biden. I was a supporter of Joe Biden. He's from the same Irish county, Mayo, his family, as my maternal grandparents or great-grandparents or ancestors. And so, I was interested. Donald Trump's presidency, to me, seemed to be a lot of chaos and impeachment attempts, which I watched. I watched every moment of the impeachment attempts by Congress, and they turned out really to be nothing. So I've watched very closely. So I watched Joe Biden. I was interested in his appointment of Kamala Harris as his vice president. And I had, I didn't know anything about her. I was, had an open mind. And so when the Ukrainian war started with Russia and she was appointed to go and negotiate the peace, I watched very carefully. I paid a lot of attention. And, I thought, she's a very pretty woman. She's physically very attractive. She's from the same neighborhood as me. She has the same accent as me. Her actual natural accent is, Kamala Harris's natural accent is exactly like mine. I have a Montreal accent. My dad, who was second-generation Montrealer, said that the Montreal accent was the most perfect English accent in the world, that it was very neutral, and we don't say A very much. It doesn't have any of the Canadianisms. It's almost an Anglophone Montreal accent is sort of a very clean, I think, easy to understand accent by all English speakers, all Anglophones. So I watched her as she did a press conference at the just before the war in Ukraine started, and I was shocked. She did this cackling thing, which was totally out of place. It was a press conference with the president of Poland and the president of some other country. And I think Zelensky wasn't there. I can't remember if he was or not. But I was shocked. She was so bizarre. She acted so bizarre. She said virtually nothing, but did that cackle throughout the press conference about a war, an impending war in a vulnerable country with one of a former ally. Russia has been, the Soviet Union was a former ally, and Russia was a former ally in both World War I and World War II. So couldn't be a more serious situation. And she was acted bizarre by any stretch of the imagination. And, it was I thought, oh, that's so odd. And then Biden disappeared for the last 4 years. I watched the southern border be overrun, that, women and children were being murdered by illegal immigrants. Jocelyn Nungari in Texas, a 12-year-old child was sexually assaulted, had her hands and feet bound together, and was thrown off a bloody bridge. A 12-year-old child. And Laken Riley in Georgia was a nursing student, a 22-year-old nursing student was murdered. The economy was doing a nosedive, the North American economy, and Canadians, were like, Pierre Trudeau said, it's like sleeping with an elephant. We're like a mouse sleeping with an elephant. So when their economy goes south, our economy goes south. The COVID epidemic was grossly mishandled, with an abridgment of all the American constitutional rights under the Bill of Rights. In Canada, we couldn't go to church for 2 years. I go to church every single in my life since I was, in my 20s. I've gone to Mass every Sunday. And as a child, I used to go to Mass by myself every single day. So the performance, and Biden, I remember seeing him ride his bicycle up to a reporter and then fall over. So Kamala Harris knew that there was mental incompetence, that Joe Biden was mentally incapable of performing the duties of a president, which put all of us, the world, in jeopardy. So as I said, she came from the same neighborhood, not just from Montreal, the same neighborhood. So I went to Marymount High School, which was the Catholic high school in Westmount, and she went to Westmount High School. So I left Montreal in 1973, and she arrived in 1976. But we spent the same formative years in Montreal, growing up in Montreal. So I thought, well, I wouldn't be a good president of the United States. I don't even know the words to the Stars and Stripes. I do know that the American anthem is the Stars and Stripes Forever. A lot of Canadians think it's America the Beautiful or something else. But I don't know the words. I don't know the words to the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm a lawyer, but I don't know the American Constitution, which is what they pledge. We pledge allegiance to the Crown. They pledge allegiance to the Constitution. So she wouldn't have sort of the growing up among it, the milieu of growing up in an American society. She would have grown up, and Montreal was not a pleasant place in the 70s when she was there. I was there during the October crisis in October of 1970. The windows in our townhouse were blown out by FLQ bomb. The FLQ was Marxist. Her father was a Marxist professor, but he lived in California, and she lived in Montreal with her mother, who was a professor of biology. So Montreal, was not a good place for a good milieu to grow up in during the 70s. I left because I could see there was no future for an Anglophone in Montreal. And I moved to British Columbia. So you wouldn't want me, and as I said, what really shocked me about Kamala Harris was that press conference when I was so optimistic, and I was giving her the benefit of the doubt. I had no preconceptions whatsoever about her or about Joe Biden, and I was shocked at her incompetence and her bizarre behavior. And last night, when I was watching the different commentators talking about her performance, and the best opinion I saw was a black man with like an American black accent, who was on the stage, and he was a talking head, and he just said she's crazy. And she is a proponent of the transgender ideology. She has no Catholic or no Christian religion that I can see, but her religion is this progressive, communist, Marxist, transgender stuff, which she promoted. She promoted giving illegal immigrants in prison in California sex change operations at the expense of the taxpayer. And I believe that she also promoted, although I'm not sure about this, she promoted having transgender men in women's spaces like prisons, which is the most horrific breach of human rights that I can think of vulnerable women in prison. So she is, and she never won a single vote in any primary. President Trump went through primaries, the full primary process both times, or all three times, and he won fair and square. No one ever voted for her. She was appointed, and my theory, although I have no idea, is that some backroom boys decided that they could manipulate her. She was an avatar for their progressive ideology, and they could manipulate her. She was also a war hawk, a warmonger. She basically, she was a proponent of the war in Ukraine, which I believe would not have happened if Trump had won in 2020. So if you're freaking out because you think, oh, here's this horrible man, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, I'm no brain trust, but my area of interest, my hobby is World War II. And studying the history, I've read everything that Winston Churchill wrote. He wrote 7 books about World War II from beginning to end. And, the way you have to be very careful about trying to spot a Hitler. And the way you spot a Hitler is by their deeds, not by their accent, not by the color of their skin, not by what they wear, their clothing, not even by their words. He's crass, and he's got that brash New York style of speaking. But if you look at the kinds of people he surrounds himself with, he's not a racist. He has his daughter is a converted Jew. What he is interested in doing is protecting the underclass of the United States, which is very vulnerable right now. The manufacturing base has virtually left and been carved out and gone to China. So there's a huge population of men in the United States who don't even look for work anymore. They don't even bother looking for work anymore. They have no meaning for life. And one of the best predictors of how long you're going to live in life expectancy is whether you have a reason to live or not. So she was, something was very wrong with her. She might have been an alcoholic. She seemed to me to slur her words. But she was just an empty vessel, an empty avatar. She failed her bar exam. Now, I wrote a bar exam in 1992, and not only do you have to pass, I was totally freaked out because out of 12, I got 11.5. Out of a possible score of 12, I got 11.5, and I remember freaking out. She failed the bar exam. And, you have to kind of work at failing the bar exam because you take a course that is specifically directed at helping you pass it and learning the concepts and information you need to know to pass it. So I think the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. The economy was great under President Trump after he was in place, although he was tormented by Congress with the 2 impeachments. He's been harassed and on trumped up charges. And I'm very optimistic. I prayed. I got down on my knees and I prayed that he would win. And didn't look good. It didn't look good at all because of the pollsters. And I'm very optimistic that he has won. And I hope she doesn't come back to Canada. She's unqualified for any job that I can think of. And she would have brought the worst development of the 21st century that I'm aware of is the mutilation of children who are not capable of giving consent to promote this transgender ideology. And that's a completely new phenomenon of the 21st century. It's never existed before. And one of the things that I think people don't realize is that it deprives these, interfering medically with children and with cross-sex hormones, causes all kinds of mysterious medical issues that we're not aware of, and that they can't possibly give informed consent because we don't know what they'll do. So the most dangerous two things that she was a proponent of was busing in and flying in illegal immigrants from all over the world to prop up the demographics. They believe demographics are everything, so that they would never lose another election. And this may have been the last election that could have possibly been fought fairly. They brought in 10 million people, and they flew them in. They paid and flew them in. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't people sneaking past border guards. They were brought in to upset the demographic apple cart by some. It may be Obama. I don't know who. But anyways, so if you're worried about President Trump's presidency, I say don't. Look back on those years. I remember the years of 2017 to 2020, and except for the COVID debacle, which may have been, people say that it was created to make his presidency unstable, and I think that's possible. It was, now it's generally accepted that it was created in a Wuhan lab with funds, American funds, donated by Fauci. So, but we don't know for sure. But what I'm saying is my independent observations of Kamala Harris was that she was an idiot, that she had bizarre behaviors that did not inspire confidence in her, and it would have been a catastrophe. And the best thing that could have happened is that Donald Trump and his supporters have won by a landslide. So that's all in the context of these videos that I've been posting on a regular basis to discuss my recovery from the trauma of watching my little brother, Paul Kierans, with Down syndrome, 64 with Down syndrome, be locked away for 588 days and then die in front of me at Burnaby Hospital. And I've got more to say about that and what's going on in terms of the fallout from that. I'm being sued by my fabulously wealthy nun sister 4,000 kilometers away in Ontario to be declared a vexatious litigant because I tried to enforce a visitation agreement with my little brother. And so I have to respond as best I can by myself. And that's what I was in court all morning this morning. I had to, I was on the SkyTrain for 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Well, my sister's lawyer in Ottawa appeared by MSN Teams. It's just horrific. And it's the worst miscarriage of justice that I'm aware of in British Columbia history, my little brother's treatment. And it was torture for the both of us. It felt like torture. And hopefully, I have enough faith in the justice system that that there'll be a satisfactory and a fair and a just outcome. And that's what I'm fighting for. So the gist of this video is that Kamala Harris was a disaster by any stretch of by any metric you could possibly look at. We dodged a bullet there. We literally dodged a bullet. She was pretty and, she could affect all these different accents, but she was a completely the most incompetent candidate for President of the United States in the 248 years that the United States has existed. And I would vote for a woman, and I would vote for a black woman or a woman of South Asian descent or any race. But I wouldn't vote for that woman. She's an idiot. And that's a sign of the health, a healthy democracy. And I trust Donald Trump. He did a good job in his previous administration, and I trust that he's got some good people now. He's got Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's just got some wonderful. It's like the Avengers. He's got some wonderful supporters and advisors, and I think it's going to, when I woke up this morning and I was on my way to court, being dragged into court by my evil nun sister, the sunrise was beautiful and the sky was beautiful, and it felt like a wonderful day. So please don't fret about Kamala Harris losing. She was an idiot. She is an idiot. I still fear that, she may pull some stunts to try and lock up Donald Trump or to, some other antics that she might have up her sleeve, or that, her handlers might have up their sleeve. But thank you so much for watching. And I'm moving along on this journey. And thank you so much for sharing this journey of my recovery. And everyone knows that I have a new kitten, Flurry. Flurry, Flurry. Say hi. Flurry, Flurry. Anyways, Flurry's, he's a wonderful little guy, very intelligent. He knows his name, and, I've got a bunch of toys all set up for him, and he's just a wonderful guy. Anyways, I can see Bruce Nakahira is watching. Hi, Bruce. So I'm just trying to give you words of support that a new day is dawning and a new administration is dawning in the United States, and I think it's going to be a wonderful change for the better for North Americans. Take care, everybody. I love you all.